Half the problem is we're not even standing on our feet correctly, okay? So your feet should always be hip width apart. Here's the other problem. Where are your hips? It's not a trick question. I really mean this, okay? So a lot of people point to here. This is not your hip, okay? This is where we store fat. We all do, nests, even the fellas, okay? Not just the ladies. So what we're looking for is the real weight, and that's gonna be our hip bones, okay? So your hip bone should be that bony part in the front. So if you guys wanna put your hands here, you should find it. I like to go ahead and do a little karate chop, I call it, and put it on those hip bones, okay? This is the width of your hip bones. That's your real weight. As you guys age, maybe the fat over the hips will change, the shape will change, but your hips, your pelvic width really doesn't change, right? Those are your bones. So if you do a karate chop, and if I close one eye, my finger should point to my big toe, and my finger should point to my big toe on that other foot, okay? So that means my feet are now as wide as my hip bones. That's what we want. I see a lot of people, they stand like this, they stand really wide-legged, or they have their feet and knees together. Looks like about to, do a little dance. Your feet should always be hip width. Why? Because you never want to put one side of your body under strain with the whole weight of it, okay? You want to evenly disperse your body weight, and you can't do that if you're not standing straight and you're not standing correctly on your feet. So that's the first thing. Second of all, we have a lot of toe issues, okay? Most of us. I still have yet come across a client that's had perfectly straight feet, okay? And by that, I mean we have what I call duck feet. Notice my toes turned out, okay? Some people have their toes turned in. It's called pigeon feet. Some people have both feet. One's duck, one's pigeon. They're right here. So your feet need to be straight. I'm going to go ahead and pick up the camera, and I'm going to turn it around. So here's the feet hip width apart. Notice they're parallel. The distance between the toes should be the same distance between the heels. I have a few tricks here. You can come here and put fists and see how many fists and fingers. I got one fist and about 3 knuckles. I'm just eyeballing it because I'm holding the camera with my other hand. And then they should get 1 fist and 3 knuckles between the heels, okay? If that doesn't work, try your best again just to eyeball that, the big toes and the heels. So we don't want to see this. We don't want to see this. We don't want to see any variation of these toes pointing anywhere other than straight, okay? That's all I can say about the toes, because wherever your toes are pointed, that's where you're going to walk. Now, here's what doesn't make sense. If your toe's going out and you're walking straight, this toe, ankle, and knee are all in that direction. So this leg thinks you're going that way, but your body's going this way. So guess what you're doing? You're straining the inside of this leg. Okay, that's not good. And then you're shortening the ligaments and joints on this side of the leg. Okay, so I like to tell everyone, pretend your body is split in half. Okay, left side, right side, and they're 2 children. You got to treat these children evenly. Okay, you can't spoil one and not the other. They're going to have a tantrum. So you got to give them both even treatment. So that means you've got to make sure they're both straight ahead, they're both equally dispersed, and other than that, you're going to get rid of a lot of issues. So I kind of touched upon the issues. If you guys overstretch the inside of the knee, ankle, and hip, that's going to cause ankle, knee, hip, and back problems. If this is out like this the whole time for however many hours a day you're standing, how many years you've been living, these things are going to get overstretched, okay? And then what happens? These other sides of your ankle and knee and hip are understretched, so they're more likely to tear. So for your joints, I want you guys to think of them as rubber bands. If you guys have a very loose and stretched out rubber band, it's not going to hold anything together. You don't want that rubber band. You can't use it. If you have a very tight rubber band where you're about to come to use it and it just breaks and snaps, you can't use that rubber band either. So they're both not good. So it's not like a lesser of 2 evils. They're just both scenarios you really don't want for your joints. You're treating both sides of your joints, the inside and the outside, as evenly as possible. You want to be even Stevens. You're good to go. The only reason I'm stressing so much about the feet is because they are the first things we do to check our posture, right? Because everything else is on top of them. So if we don't have a good base, like a building, you need a strong base. Everything else on top is just that risk of, not staying upright. So let's move on from the feet, the knees. Now the knees, again, I can only talk so much about because some people naturally have bow-legged where the knees kind of go out. Some people naturally have their knees come in, okay? Now that will just depend on the shape of the bone in the femur right here. Some of you guys just may have had that your whole life, or maybe an injury. I know some people have bow-legged legs. Maybe they did a lot of soccer as a child, or maybe they did horseback riding. Whatever the case is, if you guys know naturally your legs are curved in or out, just try your best to be mindful of having the patellas, which is the kneecaps, point forward, okay, without straining the knees too much. Everyone else who has generally straight legs, you guys just want to make sure you look at your kneecaps and see if they're also pointing forward. Now, a good test you can do is I'm just bending my legs slightly, taking those karate chop hands again, and putting them right in the middle of my kneecap. Again, those fingers should point to your big toe, okay? Now, if you notice your kneecaps out here, like you guys see my right one, I'm sticking it off to the right. If I do my karate chop, my fingers are definitely not pointing at my big toe. They're pointing out there. So that means unconsciously, I'm pushing my right kneecap out. And some of us do that. We either push our kneecaps out or we push them in. So this is a good time to check and see what direction are your kneecaps going, because again, my toes are straight, my ankles are straight. We want the knees to be straight too, okay? So let's protect those knee joints. All right, now hips. Unless you're blessed with hips of Shakira and they can move every which way on their own without you knowing, your hips by default should go forward, okay? Now, very few people have a lot of mobility in the hip and they can, you know, pick this one up and this one's down. But I haven't met too many people who've had hips that move on their own. Mainly the people I meet that have hip problems, it's because their feet and knees are not straight. But hopefully we got rid of those. If anyone has any the hips right here with straight feet and knees, go ahead and let me know now. Other than that, I'm going to go on to the glutes. So the glutes are very interesting. A lot of people think that there's only one muscle here, okay? Your right butt cheek is not one big muscle. There's 3 glute muscles, okay? We have an under glute muscle, the middle one, and the ones on the top. So literally the Latin is gluteus minimus, minimus, and maximus, which means small, medium, and big. Not too fancy. Now, the whole point of the glute muscles is not to look cute in your jeans or yoga pants or whatever it is you're wearing. Believe it or not, they have a purpose, and the purpose is to hold up the spine. So a lot of people also forget that your spine doesn't start in your lower back. It starts here in your tailbone, okay? So if you guys can feel the crack right where it starts at the top, that bony section, that's your tailbone. Just like any other animal, right? Like a dog or cat, it kind of curves out that way. So my tailbone is kind of, if I was to project, it's kind of pointing there at a 45-degree angle that way. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tuck my tailbone. Now how do we do that? We squeeze our glutes. Now I see my glutes moved, so my tailbone also kind of moved. Now it's kind of pointing somewhat down. It's never gonna be dead straight, right? Because if we ever had dead straight spine, that means you're dead. You've snapped your spine, okay? It's physically impossible to have a dead straight spine because there's naturally 2 S's, all right? So, but I'm still gonna try my best to squeeze it so I can have it tucked in. Why do we want the glutes squeezed and activated? We do it because we don't want this low back to be here, okay? Some of us have a very arched low back, and that's the #1 problem for a lot of us. We have low back pain. You know, we start coming hunching, or you sit crooked, or you sleep sideways. We don't want this derriere out, okay? So derriere is just my fancy word for butt in French. But anyways, if you guys point the tailbone down and or squeeze the glutes, notice what happens in the vertebrae. We're putting space back between the discs of the vertebrae, and that's what we want, okay? I want you guys to imagine if my fists are vertebrae and there's no space and they're just grinding as you move all day, that causes arthritis, right? That's what it is, bone on bone. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you're standing up nice and straight and putting a little here, okay? Now, some of you are like, Roxanna, I already have arthritis, I already have issues, I've already worn out this between my discs. I hear you. Some things are not irreversible. But if you guys can start being mindful, you can at least alleviate some of your pain and not make it progress as quickly or not make it even worse, okay? So if we can try to plateau it or decrease it, I'm all for it, right? So we're gonna squeeze the glutes. So literally can't get simpler than that for your low back, and just feel your lower spine kind of just elongate. We're gonna go up the back, and I want you guys to pretend we're gonna do some imagination here. So I'm gonna grab your tailbone, grab your neck bone, and I'm gonna stretch you out like this. What would happen? So if I'm standing like this, I just went here. So I probably got a little taller, right? Maybe an inch or 2, sometimes 1/4 inch for some, sometimes 2 inches for others, depending on how much we're slouching, okay? So we're gonna elongate the spine. Mind you, we're still holding those glutes, okay? So don't let go. This is the workout part, okay? Just holding a muscle flexed is a workout. Now here's the next thing, the sternum bone, Okay, your sternum bone is where your rib cage kind of meet in the middle. And this is another misconception. A lot of people think only fellas have pectoral muscles, or pecs as they call it for short, which are chest muscles. Ladies, you have pectoral muscles too, okay? They lie underneath the breast for the ladies, okay? So the reason that these pectoral muscles are so important, and they actually go this way, they're a horizontal muscle. So they go from here to arm or underarm. They lift the rib cage up so you don't squish your lungs, okay? So from the side, if I'm just standing like this, notice my rib cage is kind of deflated. My shoulders are now hunched, and it's not a great scenario here, okay? So what happens is if you can just pretend I'm string to your sternum bone and I'm pulling to the ceiling, now my chest is lifted. We're not squishing the lungs. This is where we start breathing better, right? We want to make sure that we're getting lots of oxygen in when we're breathing, and we can't do that if we're squishing our own lungs. A random fun fact, call it fun if you will. I think it was saying roughly about 1/3 of the lung is used by the average human. Okay, that means we're not breathing properly as is, which is big inhales through the nose, long exhales through the mouth, and we're not breathing deep enough. So we're only using about 1/3 of lung capacity. So that 1/3 we're using on average, let's make sure we make the most of it, okay, by making sure we're not squishing that lung. So sternum up. I want you guys to feel it's kind of like sticking out your chest. I want you guys to think it's kind of like when the doctor says take a big breath in, what happens is your chest just naturally opens up. And then on the exhale, be mindful, not let that chest go back down, okay? My favorite one is just the string tied to the sternum bone. It's being pulled up and out. So that's it for the sternum. Now we're going to go to the shoulders. Some of you may have already felt that the shoulders kind of went back when you lifted the sternum, and that's true because when the pectoral muscles are engaged, the shoulders physically cannot be hunched, okay? You cannot have the pectoral muscles flex and these be hunched. The shoulders can only physically hunch if your pectorals are not nice and squeezed, okay? They're not contracted. So it's like two birds with one stone. Once you lift that sternum bone, you're already pushing the shoulders back, which is exactly what we want. It's not just for aesthetics, like, oh, I'm looking like Hunchback Notre Dame. It's not cute. No, it has some issues, right? One of them I said was squishing your lungs. Two, your shoulders, if you go a little above them, we go to the neck. Your neck's the only highway for that blood to travel up to your brain. If you guys are sitting here and scrunching everything up, that blood flow is not going to go to your brain very easy. Okay, it's difficult. It's making all these turns and whatnot. You don't want that to happen because one of the responsibilities of blood is to circulate oxygen through the body. And guess what? Your brain needs a lot of oxygen to function. Okay, so if you guys are making it hard for that blood to get up to that neck because you're hunched, your brain's not going to work or perform very well. It's like if we only give you a certain amount of food, are you going to have a lot of energy throughout the day? No. If I don't put enough gas in your car, are you going to go far? No. So you guys really want those shoulders down. So pretend someone is standing on your shoulders and I'm bringing them down. Okay. A lot of us are stressed. We don't know the shoulders creep up to the earlobes. Okay. You don't notice that until someone's like, hey, relax, shoulders down, all the way down. Someone's standing on them. The second direction your shoulders need to go is back, okay? Pretend someone's your shoulders behind you, okay? So win-win because yes, we're stretching out the neck. So we're increasing that blood flow. So our brain can be happy, get lots of oxygen, which this is where we have that mental happiness. Oh, I forgot, so-and-so's name, or I'm just always in a cloud or fogginess. Yeah, you'll notice improvement just by correcting your posture. Believe it or not, that blood flow is going to make your brain so much happier. And then the second thing is your muscles here are not going to be as tight, okay? Because when they're tight, you get knots. And then people are what? You're not going to do your workouts. You're just going to be not motivated. Some people get tension headaches because they have so many knots, right? So you want to make sure shoulders are down and back all the way. So we've corrected sternum, we've got shoulders. Now the next in line is our neck. Normally when I see people, their heads are kind of forward, okay? Notice I've kind of put my head out. And some of us, depending on our lifestyle, and I'll explain what I mean by lifestyle, our chins are down. So we're either looking somewhere here or we have our chins up, okay? I still have yet to meet a client where their heads were perfectly in line with the rest of their spine. What do I mean by that? So here's the flat part of my head, okay? This part of your head should be in alignment with the vertebrae between my shoulder blades, okay? So if your head's too far forward, do you see the back of my head's no longer in line with that? That's not good. That's another way of hunching, that we're not letting that blood flow go to the brain, and also we're straining the vertebrae here. So going back to the spine, most people think it starts in the back. We realize it actually starts here in the derriere, right, in the tailbone, but it doesn't end in the back either. Your spine goes all the way up into the neck. Okay, so these last few vertebrae, they have such a responsibility of holding that neck in. Now, the average adult human head weighs about between 15 to 20 pounds. Now, that's a lot of weight. Just to give you perspective, if you're to hold a free weight in one hand, it could hurt just to hold it here. Notice my arm is bent and I'm holding my hand close to my body. I'm pretending my head's my hand and my arm is my neck. Now, if I was to hold that weight out, okay, for a long period of time, you're gonna feel the strain, right? Now, unfortunately, what our neck cannot do every night is it cannot take off our head, put it on the nightstand and go to sleep and those neck muscles can relax. No, those neck muscles don't get a vacation. They're on the job 24/7, okay? So do your neck muscles a favor and push that head in. So some good analogies is you want to pretend the back of your head, you're going so far back that you're going to give yourself this fake double chin, right? You can feel your throat kind of scrunch up. Another one is if you're a turtle and you're sticking your head outside of its shell, you're going to be really shy and you're going to go back inside your shell. My other favorite one is if you're standing against the wall, the flat part of your head should touch that wall, okay? Now, some of you guys already may feel, wow, I feel so much tightness in the back of my neck. I feel intense pressure. Yeah, those neck muscles have been overstretched for however many years, right? And all of a sudden they have to be shortened and they're not strong enough to hold themselves, right? Because they're, being tightened and they don't know what to do. Likewise, the front of your neck, your throat, a lot of people are like, oh, Roxanna, I can't breathe. What's going on? There's nothing going on. Your trachea is fine, right? That's our air pipe. Your trachea is fine. It's just finally the front of your neck feels the real weight of how much your neck weighs. And these muscles are not used to feeling the weight of that neck. Okay. They're like, oh my gosh, it's a lot of weight. So if you want to calm yourself down, you can take your hand, place it on your throat, and just massage it down gently. And just take really big gulps. Okay. Just swallow some saliva or drink some water. Just massage it. And you can feel that, yes, in fact, your airway, your passageway is totally empty and cleared. It's not blocked. It just feels heavy because your muscles here are feeling how much it weighs. Because mind you, 15 to 20 pounds is not a light weight. We're just used to it in the same position, but as soon as we correct it, all of a sudden we become aware of how much it weighs, okay? So that is your neck. Easier said than done to correct the neck. It's really hard for a lot of people. The last piece of the puzzle for our standing posture is our chin, believe it or not. So I like to use analogy, if my eyes are the older sibling and my chin's the younger sibling, isn't it totally common? Anywhere an older sibling goes, the younger sibling wants to follow. So likewise with your eyes and chin. So if my eyes are up, my chin is up, okay? My eyes are down, my chin is down. A lot of people forget you can move your eyeballs without having to move your chin, okay? Remember, in the doctor's office, they have you head and just move the eyes, okay? So people forget you can move your eyes. You do not need to constantly moving your chin down to look down and then up, okay? We don't need to do this. All of this action is not good for your neck muscles, okay? Your neck muscles already have a very important responsibility of holding the head straight. Now, unless you're some kind of snake dancer or some contortionist or where you're doing all crazy things with your spine, okay, go ahead and do that. But if you're just a regular person like me, hold your head up straight and move your eyes accordingly. If you're too close to something you need to see, step back. You can move your eyes down without moving that chin, okay? In a perfect world, your chin should be parallel to your feet at all times. Some people will say floor. I'm saying feet. We'll find out why later, okay? Now, earlier I kind of touched base on why your chin can be down based on lifestyle or up. Typically, and I'm just giving generalizations, you guys, because of all the clients I've worked with, I found some commonalities. People who are shorter, they tend to look up at people who are around them are taller. So their chin is up. So they're always used to their whole life looking up. Okay, now what does this do? We're overstretching the muscles in the front. understretching the muscles in the back, okay? So I have to tell them, bring your chin down till it's parallel to the floor, and if you have to, step back and you can see a taller person and just move your eyes up and down, okay? Bring that chin down. Likewise, people who are really tall and they're around a lot of shorter people, they're always looking down, okay? So now the chin is all the way down here, you're overstretching the back of your neck. So that's why they're always doing these and it hurts to look up, okay? So just being mindful of whatever you're looking at. Now, whether it's the computer screen, maybe your computer screen's too low or too high, or you're texting, your phone's down here, okay? Ideally, whatever you have should be at eye level. So if you have a phone, at eye level. If you have a computer, it's at eye level. If you're talking to someone, eye level, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and do this posture at the wall. The wall is great because A, it's not gonna move, hopefully it won't. So you're gonna really feel the strain. Some people accidentally fall forward. So please proceed with caution if you're gonna come and join me at the wall. Let's start from the beginning. Feet and knees hip width apart. So if you forgot, take your karate chop hands, find your hip bones. If you close one eyeball and kind of eyeball it, your finger should point to your big toes. Make sure feet are straight. Okay, good, those are done. Squeeze your glutes. Now, don't squeeze so hard where your knees lock. Some people squeeze the glutes so hard, the knees lock. You don't want that. So just squeeze to a comfortable amount where you feel some space in your low back and your knees are not locked, okay? All right, so we squeeze the glutes. Let's keep going up. Elongate your spine. I've grabbed your tailbone and your neck. We're gonna stretch you out. Good. Lift that sternum bone up and forward, okay? Open the chest and those lungs. Shoulders, yes. In a perfect world, your shoulders should touch the wall, okay? Not shoulder blades. This actual shoulder right here. If you're like, Roxanna, I have no clue what's going on, take your other hand and see how many fingers you can fit back here between the wall. If you can fit any fingers, that means you have slight hunch in your shoulders. If you can fit a lot of fingers, you have hunched shoulders, okay? So ideally, your shoulders should be so open, I can't fit any fingers back here. That's the goal, okay? I did have one client who had perfect shoulders, but she was 6 years old. Her mom brought her with her, and I was like, see, life hasn't taken its toll on you. You're not hunched or stretched. Those shoulders are perfectly down and into the wall, okay? Everyone else, we all have our adult issues of stress. Those shoulders do come forward. It's normal. So you guys can come here and just pulse those shoulders into the wall. This is a little good exercise. Now here's a little tip. To open those shoulders even more, turn your palms out, okay? So see how my palms are facing you now? Good. Now make sure the back of your hands and all 5 fingers touch the wall. Now you guys already feel like, oh, I feel a huge stretch in my forearm. I feel a stretch in my arm or shoulder, or some of you guys may even feel the stretch all the way in your upper back and neck. Yeah, that's how much one body part all the way down in your fingers touching the wall can go up the arm into your head because it's a domino effect in the body, right? So I'm just spreading those fingers, my wrists flat, palms open. This in itself is a workout and a stretch, okay? I'm gonna make sure my flat part of my head's against the wall. And this is where some of you guys may feel that strain in the neck, and my chin's parallel. Again, some people have issues keeping straight and they feel like they're falling forward, okay? So you guys can slowly warm up to it. Take a few steps forward, a couple inches, and hold yourself and feel your quads and legs get stronger over time, and then you can bring those heels back against the wall, okay? So if I turn my palms down and just kind of sound like a regular normal human being, and I step forward, this is my standing posture. So I'm gonna turn to the side so you guys can see, head in line with the vertebrae between shoulder blades, chin parallel, shoulders back, sternum up, glutes squeezed. I don't look like a robot, right? I know at first we feel really rigid and just like a, robot, literally. But over time, your muscles learn muscle memory, which is so great about them, is they take over without you having to think, but it just comes with repetition and constant awareness. Just half the battle is checking yourself. What are my toes doing? Where are my knees? Are my glutes squeezed? Is my chest up? Okay, just checking yourself is more than half the battle. You're gonna start correcting it, and then guess what? Those muscles will learn and take over, and you don't have to think about it anymore. And the best part is your body was made to stand like this. So it's gonna come back to this position more quickly than stay in what you've been doing your whole life. So let's go ahead and do our walking. And it's literally always our standing posture. But I'm gonna go ahead and start over here. And you guys tell me if you notice any difference, okay? So here's a walk. Notice I'm saying a walk. Okay, I'm just gonna go back again. And then I'm gonna show you this other walk. Okay, did you guys notice anything in the feet? Now I've had really correct upper body posture, so I kind of cheated because normally people who have bad feet don't have great upper body, but it was all about the feet, okay? So your feet should always, again, be hip width apart. So sometimes when people walk, especially the ladies, I notice the legs are closer together. And for the fellas, I've also noticed that the legs are wider. Now, obviously, these are generalizations. There's always exceptions. Just being mindful of what we're wearing that day. We're more conscious of what type of walk we have, or maybe the shoes we're in, or the activity we're doing. So I just want you guys to be mindful. They should always be hip width apart. Okay, no excuses. You don't want them too wide or too narrow. Just try your best hip width apart. Now, when we walk, eventually they start coming together and we're doing a cross-legged thing. Or some people kind of do like this little cowboy where their legs are wide and they're going off to the side. Okay, just like with standing, we don't want that. Whoop, we want to keep everything nice and straight. Second of all, I'm going to turn back to the side. We're not using the muscles in our feet and toes. Okay, who here says I'm gym and work out my feet muscles and toe muscles? Yeah, no one, right? But we should, because we're standing on our all day long. They get no credit. They work the hardest, okay? So when you guys walk, it should be 3 steps. It's going to be a flexed foot. Notice I've put my heel down, toes all the way up, okay? This is the first thing you should do. You're going to feel a nice stretch in your calf and your hamstring, maybe up to your glute and low back. I want those toes nice and high. Second thing, we're going to bring that foot flat. A lot of us do not put our weight evenly on this foot, okay? We do half the foot, which is the side, inside, toe, or heel. I want the whole enchilada, okay? Foot's flat. Let's take a quick break. We're gonna look at this back foot, which is the right foot. Notice I have my heel very nice and high, so I'm almost coming to a pointed toe here. If you guys have this heel nice and high, you should feel a stretch right here in the arch of that foot, and you're gonna feel a stretch in the shin and quad. Now the shin, you guys are telling me, I know, Roxanna, it's not a muscle, it's bone. Yes, but you have ligaments and tendons around those bones. So those guys are getting stretched out. So we're gonna point really hard here. We pick up, we're back to that flex, flat, other foot point, okay? So it's a 3-step move. Flex, flat, point. If your feet are constantly flexing, flat, and then pointing, guess what you're doing? You're stretching out the tops and bottoms of your feet. You're stretching the front and the back of your leg. That's what we want, okay? Also, we're really letting those toes work by clawing up the floor because naturally, those toes are there for a reason. That's why we have them, to get a better grip, okay? So the first walk I did for you guys, if you look at the feet, it was a flat-footed walk, okay? We're getting tired. We don't want to pick up the leg. So what happens as people age, they don't want to walk the right way. But who's to blame you? Because who's told you how to walk properly, right? No one did. I don't know anyone that told me how to walk properly. When I first started walking at 2, 1, 2, whatever it was. So we're going to work those quads and you have to work your hip flexors, okay? So you got to bring up the leg and flex, okay? We're going to bring it up and flex, okay? It comes down with the flex foot. If you guys have trouble doing so, either hold on to the wall, if you have a walker, or you have furniture, something steady, not a rolling chair. Just make sure you can use your hand and guide yourself, okay? Because it's a lot to look down and not lose your balance, especially since you're walking so much more slowly. If you don't do that, what happens? You don't even pick up your feet, and that's why a lot of people start shuffling, right? You hear shuffling, you don't want to be a shuffler, okay? When you shuffle, it's easier to trip over stuff, and that's how people get injured, is they trip and fall just from doing something as simple as walking. So not only are we not using the feet muscles and toe muscles, we're not using our quads to lift the leg, okay? We're not using our hip flexors right here to help support lift that leg. So I always joke and say, who wants to be a vertical creature for the rest of their lives, right? No one wants to be bound by a wheelchair or in their bed because they're, recovering from an injury. We want to be on our feet. We like having that mobility and freedom. So you guys really have to work these quads and hip flexors and lift that leg. Okay, I know it looks weird now, but then eventually you look normal and just getting a slight lift in those legs, okay? And you can go back to your regular pace. You're just gonna notice your feet and your ankles are kind of tired and sore, but it's just a growing pain. The more you do it, like I said, your muscle memory will kick in and it'll be a new normal. And you're not going to think, am I pointing, flexing? What am I doing? Okay. So literally, if I took off the heels, right? So I'm not wearing heels. I look like this. I'm walking on my tippy toes. So all I'm doing is I'm stretching out the top of my legs. So that's quads, shins, and top of my feet. That's great. These guys are getting stretched out, but what's going on to the back of the leg and calves and feet? They're getting shortened. Remember what I said earlier, you never want to treat two children differently. You want to treat them all the same to keep peace in the house. So you don't want to overstretch the top of the leg and then understretch the back. So when you're wearing heels often, you're not getting to that flex foot, which we need that heel lower than the toes, which is right here. So if you have to wear a heel, because I know we can't walk flat-footed either, I like to go for around 1 inch of cushion support if you guys don't have your arches. But notice when we start walking properly, we're using that toe grip and those arches come back, okay? If you guys really like this posture, we can make it a series and I start giving you guys exercises. But today, I'm just going over what a walk should look like in correct alignment and what your standing should be. And then we're gonna go to sitting next and then lying down. But yeah, your shoes, they're no good if you wear heels all day long, every day, but every now and then it's okay. Just make sure you get your stretches in. And like I said, that could be something I show you guys later for the people who do have to wear heels, or maybe the fellas, you guys wear some boots or even some high loafers, and I see the heel is quite high, all right, more than 1 inch. The fellas are just as much as risk as the ladies in heels, right? So you want to be really mindful of the type of shoe you're wearing. And if you don't have any support, it's not good, okay? So you want some support. And remember, there's no pounding, okay? Some people walk and I swear it's like T-Rex coming down the hallway, okay? One quick thing about that, when you guys pound, the last thing to absorb the pressure is your bone, okay? What happens to your bone? It reverberates and that poor bone gets more brittle, right? If you keep pounding on something over and over, eventually it's going to just break, right? It just snaps or it's becoming more susceptible to breakage or snapping. People tell you, oh, it's old age, bones get brittle. Yeah, to a certain extent, right? You do lose some bone mass. But if you're pounding away on your feet, and I can hear you from a mile away, yeah, you're going to expedite that, possible injury or bone breakage or what have you. So want to make sure really quiet on those feet. So there shouldn't be any sound. And I don't want to hear the excuse, but I'm really tall or I'm really heavy or maybe I weigh a certain amount and I shouldn't walk as much as like someone who's petite. Okay, I'm over 5'9". I'm really tall. I don't know if you guys can tell. And I definitely don't weigh anywhere near 100. I'm closer to 200. Let's be honest, okay? But you should still be light on your feet, okay? No excuse, because if you're bigger, it also means you have bigger muscles. And it means that your muscles should be big enough and strong enough to hold you and place yourself quietly on the floor as you walk, okay? So no excuses for anyone. Same rules, okay? So that's it for walking. Went by really quick, but it was mainly just about the feet. All right, you guys. So if you guys want to join me for this one, I like to use a chair with no armrests, okay? So we're going to sit here and this is it. So we have a nice C shape going on in the spine here, okay? Some of us sit and we're right here, okay? We have the complete opposite. We're either at the desk, we're hanging out down here, okay? This is not good either. We want shoulders over hips, just like how we had in our standing posture, right? Shoulders over hips. The one thing I try to make very clear in my workshops is that I have the same rules. There are no exceptions. I don't care what position your body's in. It's the same rules everywhere, okay? So we want consistency. It's easy to remember and it's easy for the body. So guess where we're gonna start off first? The feet, okay? So we're gonna look down at our feet. What are they doing? Are they hip width apart? Okay, check yourself. So if you forgot, you can find your hip bones again, do your little karate chop, and go all the way up to your kneecaps. You should be right at the middle of your kneecaps, okay? If you're not hitting the middle of your kneecaps, maybe your legs are too wide or too narrow. All right, close one eye. Are my fingers pointing to my big toes? Okay, good. If not, that other test, I said if you want to put some fists and see how many fists and knuckles fit between the toes, it should be the same amount of fists and knuckles between the heels, okay? No duck feet here, no pigeon feet. Perfect. My feet look like equal sign. Good. The only thing we have to add to the sitting posture is the knees, okay? So some of us, we sit here. Notice my knees are way in front, feet are behind, okay? Guess what we're doing? We're overstretching the top of the knee and we're understretching the back of the knee. We never want to play extremes, right? You don't want that overstretched rubber band on the top, understretched rubber on the bottom. No, no. Some of us, what do? We do this. I'm going to kick my feet up. My feet are way in front of my knees. Now who's being shortchanged? The top of the knee and overstretching the back. Okay, we want to be even Stevens. So I want this nice big bone that sticks out of my ankle right here on the side. That guy should be right underneath my knee. Okay, so right over my ankle. Okay? That's how it should be. And the chair you're sitting in often, it should help make your quads, AKA quadriceps or the front of your thighs, parallel to the floor, okay? Some of us sit in chairs, we're too high, we're like this. See, my quads are no longer parallel, okay? And some of us, maybe we're sitting in a chair too low. Maybe you're tall and your shins are really high, right? Because you're taller, so your knees are higher, okay? So you need to be mindful. Some of us, we use an ottoman and we do that, right? Or we use some type of footrest, okay? So you guys need to make sure your feet are hip width apart, toes straight, quad should be parallel to the floor. All right, moving on up the body. We're still going, okay? Those glutes. Roxanna, I'm sitting on my butt. How can I squeeze it? You can still squeeze it. Now, can you squeeze it as much? No, because there's the weight of the upper body on it, but I still want you to squeeze because we still need to support the low back. So here's my arched. Here's my hinged. Here's like Goldilocks right in the middle. Okay, wants me happy. So I'm feeling this low back and it kind of feels more straight. Okay, put your own hand back here and see what you feel. Another good analogy to use is if I took my finger and I pushed on my belly button, I'm pushing my belly in towards my spine. Okay, let's get rid of that arched low back. Okay, we're not going to get rid of it completely, but I just want you guys to keep it straight. We still want that space between our vertebrae, and people think sitting is a good excuse to slouch and not do anything or arch. Okay, work your way up the spine. I've grabbed your tailbone, grabbed your neck. Sit up nice and tall. Okay, so now my shoulders are over my hips. I'm not leaning forward or back. Same thing, sternum up, shoulders down and back, head in, chin parallel. This is how you guys should sit in the chair. Okay, if you're at a desk, you're working that keyboard, there should be a 90-degree angle between this forearm and bicep. Okay, that means your keyboard has to be here, right where my hands are, 90 degrees for these arms. Okay, so I'll face you guys real quick. That's where your keyboard should be. If it's not happening, make it happen. There's so many different technological products out there. You can type right here. All right, your monitor, your TV, whatever you're looking at, you're a guest at eye level. Don't be up here. Don't be down here. Don't be off to the side, okay? Center of your eyeballs, right here, just like standing. If you guys are eating, only wrist at the table, not just because I'm trying to make you guys proper. It's because if you guys put your elbows on the table, you probably have to hunch, right? Because I don't know a table that's up to here. Unless you're a very petite person and you're struggling, then that's when I'd recommend you guys get a chair that you can sit higher on. But normally tables are not that high. So if you have to get your elbows up, you're kind of slouching. We do not want to encourage a slouch. So if I'm straight, the only thing I can have on the tables at most is my wrists, okay? You cut your food, you bring the food to your mouth. You never bring your mouth to your food, okay? This hunched position not only is not good for your lungs, right? We already went over all that, and the brain flow to the brain. You're squishing all of your organs, okay? You have a lot of organs that need to get involved to help digest your food. It causes lots of problems. Don't do that. Help yourself, elongate the spine, you bring your food to your mouth, and you want to straighten everything up. Don't squish your organs. Your organs, if they're squished, it's like if I tied another U to your back. Would you like to go about your day with another U tied to your back? That's a lot of weight, okay? You're like, well, I already have enough weight as is moving around. I don't need another me, okay? That's what your organs are doing. If one's sitting on top of the other, he's like, dude, get off of me. I can't do my job and, process this very well if I'm being squished. So if you can lay off of them, then your organs actually function better, right? And that's how we improve digestion. So that's it with the eating and working. Driving. This one, I'm always kind of hesitant to talk to people about it because I don't want anyone to get in a car accident. Well, Roxanna told me so, police officer, I don't know what happened. All I'm going to say is when you guys are driving, just be a little bit mindful of how you're sitting in it, okay? You guys know all the same rules. If you can make it feasible to, keep your hands at shoulder level, which is going to be your 10 and 2, okay? Unless you're very petite or very tall, obviously you have to make adjustments. And I don't know what cars you're driving. Just being mindful of your posture and just trying your best. I don't want anyone going to extremes. And like I said, totally learning something new and God forbid getting to an accident of some sort. But your steering wheel, make sure it's high enough. So at least your hands are at shoulder level, hold your neck properly, squeeze your glutes, belly button in, and just try to keep your feet hip width unless you've got a stick or a manual. You got to keep that left leg on the pedal or the gear or whatnot and do what you got to do, okay? So I'm very hesitant to talk about that position. But other than that, those are the three main seated postures we find ourselves in. Okay. So lying down is literally going to be the exact same thing standing. But if I lie down, I don't think you guys can see me. So if anyone wants to lie down on the floor, it's the same rules, believe it or not. So I'm going to stay standing, but you're lying, okay? Feet are flexed. So some people feel, let's see if you guys can actually see my feet if I lie down. If they're on their back, their toes can go off to the side or pointed, okay? If we're not letting our feet roll off to the side when we're standing and walking, guess what? There's no excuse when you're lying down. I said earlier, it's the same rules for all 4 positions and postures, okay? So my feet are hip width apart. So if you're on your back, guess what? Your toes are pointing to the ceiling. Yeah, and your feet are flexed. So I want your foot perfectly perpendicular to the ground because right now they're flexed, right? So they're going to be the same thing. You work your way up the body. Are your kneecaps facing straight up to the ceiling because that's where your toes are facing, right? So check your kneecaps. Same thing, squeeze your glutes. And just because you're lying down doesn't mean there's not pressure on your body. Your weight is your weight, regardless if you're vertical or horizontal. Yes, being horizontal, you have some leverage because now the weight is evenly applied because of gravity is being evenly applied to your body. But 2, there's still weight. Your leg weighs a lot. You have 2 of them, your torso, shoulder, neck. It doesn't go away unless you're in water, maybe in a pool, it's less. Or if you're in outer space and there's no gravity at all, okay? Until then, please be mindful. You gotta squeeze those glutes, stretch out your spine. So you're gonna wiggle your head up, okay? Because if you're lying down, you gotta wiggle. Shoulders should be touching the floor, okay? Sternum up to the ceiling. Chin is perpendicular or parallel to your feet. That's the rule I said earlier. A lot of people say chin parallel to the floor. Well, now you're a horizontal creature. So chin's parallel to your feet, whether you're vertical, standing on your feet, or horizontal, lying on your back, okay? And yes, this means, everyone hates me when I say this, no pillows. Oh, but I have neck pain. Yeah, because you're encouraging a bad habit, okay? We do not want to keep up these bad habits, okay? I know it's easier said than done. I'll never fall asleep. I'm in too much pain. Do what you got to do. Just be mindful. If you can at least rest here in bed or on the floor, open your shoulders. Remember my little tip, palms out. So even on the floor, palms out. So the back of your hands should be touching the floor, all 5 fingers spread, okay? Shoulders touching, shoulder blades, and flat parted. Stay here for a few seconds or minutes if you can before going to sleep, and then stay there again a few minutes or seconds when you wake up. We just want to get that repetition of those muscles working so they can get that muscle memory. This is a workout. Some muscles here are flexing. You guys should feel it. Some muscles are being stretched out. You should feel it, okay? So if you guys can just come here and come to the wall a few times a day, or when you guys are walking, be mindful of your toes and your feet. If you guys can go and lie in your bed or on the floor, be mindful. You're gonna notice your body's gonna start opening up. Yes, like I said, there are growing pains, but they go away with time. It just determines, or just based on how determined you are to correct your posture issues, okay? So a good test you guys can do, since we have a few minutes, I normally say this for our second workshop, but a really good test is if you guys turn your palms down. I don't care if you're on the floor or on the wall. Palms are down on the floor or the wall. And you're going to want to slide them up the floor or up the wall, okay? You cannot take them off. Those fingers should touch the whole time. And then they got to go back. If some of you stopped here or here, anything less than 180, okay? We have lost the range in our shoulders. The shoulders are a very unique body part. They're the only body part that has 180 degrees horizontally and vertically, okay? If you guys don't have that ability, we've lost it, but guess what? There's always hope. I always say, as long as you're alive, I don't care if you're wheelchair bound, I don't care if you've had 100 surgeries, there's small, tiny little movements you can do to help alleviate the amount of pain you have, increase your range of motion. And guess what? We're not doing it drastically with surgery or something extreme like those spine stretchers. Have you seen them, people hanging off the walls? Nothing extreme. All we're doing is we're just squeezing those muscles, okay? So when you're pushing those hands down, believe you me, I'm working this forearm. I am working this tricep. I am working the shoulder. I am working my palm muscles, my finger muscles, okay? They're getting to work and they're also stretching out. And then you're gonna come here, open your palms. This one's a lot easier for a lot of people, but sometimes it's still hard. Palms up towards the ceiling. And we're coming up 180 degrees here, okay? I like to call this move snow angels because it kind of looks like you're drawing a snow angel, okay? So those are some really good exercises you guys can do. But here's the thing, you cannot move your head. Some people come, they start moving the head forward. I want my cake and I want to eat it too. I want the head flat against the floor or the wall and arms up, okay? And there we go, I knocked that off. Anyways, that is that move. It's just a quick check to see how your shoulders are doing, okay? So if you thought, oh, my shoulders are fine, they're in the wall or on the floor, great. You guys passed the snow angel test with palms up and palms down, right? So the last few minutes, we only have about 4 minutes before the hour ends. I just want to open it up and have a Q&A segment. So let me know what you guys have, and I'm more than happy to help answer as much as I can.